It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for October 14th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, God of War gets bundled with the PS5, and Sony wants to shoot you with blast of haptic waves. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jordan Midler, everybody. How you doing, Jordan?
Back again. The VGC takeover continues. You had my boss on Wednesday, so it'll be all of us.
Yep, I'm happy to have you back. You always got my back when I'm like, oh, I forgot to get something for Friday. Jordan, maybe? And yep, you show up right on cue. It's great stuff.
It's not as if I have like literally 5 games to be playing right now. Let's just put that aside. Like,
listen,
not worried.
Just consider this, in Mike Tyson's Punch Out in between rounds when he pats him on the back. That's what I am to you right now. Yeah. I'm just giving you the virtual pat on the back, and then you're going to go into round 2 of reviewing these games with just you're going to be reinvigorated. You're going to tackle these things no problem. I stumbled opening the show and laughed because when it transitioned, I had like this tiny window where I can see what the program feed is from OBS, and so it was my face is covered. It was just you staring right at the camera, locking eyes with me, and I was like, it just got me. It got me pretty good.
I can see you always.
How you been? How are things going?
Good, man. This is my favorite time of the year. It's the busy period. It's a proper busy period. It's an old school one. It's not like the kind of 2010, 2020, 2021. It was kind of quiet, but there were some big games. This is every day a new review code comes in.
Yep.
Let's go and get this done. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And the games have been kind of mid to pretty surprisingly good. So it feels good.
I'll say that at least in the case of something like Scorn, the games are at least interesting to read the reviews about because the takes are so varied. It's like, oh, feels like we're actually having a conversation instead of everyone putting in their book report and everyone trying to like get it right. It's like this. Everyone's got like a perspective on this, and they're bringing their expectations to it, and that's really affecting what they feel about the final product. And it's cool to like see that stuff play out. Been doing this for a while now, and that's still pretty rare. I get that to a certain extent with like the review scores. We'll talk about Scorn review scores here at the end of the news period, but it was video games are these things where there is an artisanal side to it, where it's not just art, it's also artisanal, where a good chair when you sit in it, and the video games in a lot of ways are like a good chair, and a good chair is good for most people. And so you can kind of review it on a more, and of course not, but a more objective side where it's like, obviously there's been a lot of good work put into this by craftspeople. And so it's like easy to kind of everyone to agree on a score. But I think that's going to start waning as we get to a point where every game just has awesome craftspeople working on it because the tools are getting so much better. People are getting so much better at using those tools. So I think we're going to be entering a more interesting period when it comes to reactions we get from games. It's more like music where everyone can play the guitar, everyone can make a game now. But how do you feel about that? And it's going to be I think it's going to be pretty
definitely because you think about when God of War reviews drop in a couple of weeks, there's going to be a base level of quality to that game that means that the bottom end is going to be a 7 or an 8 or something like that, whereas something like Scorn is all over the place. Like VGC gave it a 2 out of 5, the only correct review in my opinion. But yeah, the kind of the games that are coming up, and certainly the games that I'm playing now, and if you look at the release calendar, you can pretty much guess what they're going to be. There is some of that. There is a review that I'm writing that I'm pretty sure when I drop it is going to be one of the lower ones, but I've managed to kind of talk to people who are also playing that game, and there's nothing better than having a bad technical experience and asking someone and they also have it, so you don't sound like you're going off your head. It's like, okay, good.
Yes,
for real. It's actually a problem.
Yes, it's like I typically want to avoid conversations about games that I haven't finished the review of, but that's the time where it's like, nope, this is part of it. You got to be able to check in on the technical side of things. Absolutely. All right, let's get into this. But before we do so, let's explain what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with, and I'm going to take a quick detour here because I'm going to put this on the list and I forgot. Facebook's leg video was a lie. I'm infuriated.
Wait,
this comes from Luke Plunkett at Kotaku, who said earlier this week, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg took the stage to demonstrate that having spent billions of dollars to create a virtual reality universe, Horizon Worlds, that looked like it was from 2004, his company was working on improving that universe to make it look like it was from 2009 instead. Luke always gets me. Integral to this upgrade was the fact that the avatars would no longer be floating torsos, but would soon have legs. The future is here. It was a very weird video existing in a very weird space where and then it goes on to say, but now they've admitted, Facebook and Meta, whatever you want to call them, I actually don't care, call them whatever you want. Facebook admitted that this video is not actually showing the real technology. Instead, it was animated legs that were captured via performance capture and then pasted on top of the existing avatars, which makes a whole lot of sense. So the final product may not end up looking like this. And have you ever felt so betrayed in your life, Jordan Midler?
This is just another example of these games companies lying to us gamers. We think we're going to get something. This should motivate people to march on the streets of the metaverse without their legs. Is there anyone at Facebook in any position of power that's going to have the moment of realization and be like, we are the biggest joke online right now? Like, it is impossible to claw this back.
Probably not. There's a value at a company like that in not having those realizations, or at least not speaking them out loud. There is a lot of money to be made for you personally in being, or at least appearing to be, a true believer. So I think there's going to be a lot of realizations made after all this. A lot of people saying we should have known better, or we did know better, and no one spoke up. Or they might not, they might never admit that stuff and just be like, no, this is part of failing fast, which is Silicon Valley culture from the very beginning, and we're just doing the way it always should have been done. It is a really weird idea that we're getting bull shots for these video game adjacent experiences that no one really cares about, at least not from Meta. We already have VR chat. These things already exist and are very popular. And this big company is coming in and like, no, we are going to invent this space, and our big feature is legs. And we can't do that yet. Obviously, we can't. We don't even have the hardware to track legs yet. But we're going to show you what we think it's going to look like. And in video games, at this point, this stuff just doesn't kind of fly anymore. They're clearly labeled as CGI trailers in commercials and stuff like that. And then we get to when it's time to actually show the game, these companies are very careful about presenting the best possible real gameplay. It's because we've seen through the ruse for so long. So to have a company like this with all the money in the world, all the resources in the world, try to pull this one off, it just feels like they don't know what they're doing. I mean, saying that, okay, what? I don't care. Go ahead, show off your stupid animated legs.
No, this is serious. This is very serious. This is this generation's Killzone 2 trailer. Like, this is
that's right.
The worst thing that has happened in video games in the past, 24 hours.
Did the people responsible for that Killzone trailer ever get out of prison? I think they're still in prison to this day.
Not. I really hope not. Yeah.
I mean, listen, sure, we got a lot of debate about capital punishment, but maybe this was an exception to the rule there. Just joking. Please don't kill people for putting out bull shots. That's not what I'm just joking. All right, let's get to this news I actually did write down here. God of War Ragnarok PS5 bundle revealed in next gen immersion trailer. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. The upcoming bundle was revealed with a new next gen immersion trailer viewable on their YouTube channel. It promotes PS5 features like 3D audio and the DualSense controller's haptic feedback. Launching alongside the game next month, according to this trailer, the bundle will include a PS5 disc console with a standard white controller and a digital copy of God of War Ragnarok. This isn't too surprising, Jordan. I think the angle I'm interested in here is there's just always going to be a bundle of the PS5 for the foreseeable future, and that's going to be the main way you could buy a PS5, because for the last year almost, the only real way to get a PS5 is with the Horizon bundle, which does cost $550. This is likely going to either replace that or sit alongside that. And the one thing that won't be sitting alongside this is a standard $500 disc-based PlayStation 5 with no game included. They want to make sure that they have a certain price that you are hitting when you are purchasing the system, and this is part of that strategy. And I mean, it seems like a much fairer strategy than everywhere else in the world, where it's just they just raise the price of the standard version, and now if you get the bundle, it's even more expensive than that.
Yeah, it's not actually been super difficult in the UK to get a PS5 for a while, but I know in recent weeks there was a FIFA 23 bundle. I don't know if that was an official the game comes in the box style bundle or more of a per retailer bundle, but that was really popular, obviously, because it's FIFA and it's kind of the time that people get into the PS5. But the more strange thing to me about this God of War bundle is the PlayStation 5 has a built-in cosmetic customization feature, e.g. the side plates. Why does this not come with like God of War side plates? And why have they not done those specifically for games yet and just done the colors? Like, it seems like such a obvious kind of missed opportunity. Like, this doesn't include the God of War controller.
It does not.
Or anything. Like, it seems like a strange. I feel like people on the street buying a God of War bundle for a game and then seeing, oh wait, there's a God of War controller. Like, why did I not get that with this?
Yeah.
Like, it's a bit, as you say, this way of getting a PS5 kind of at the end of the life cycle of the scalpers for the PS5, because it's still a problem, but it's not a huge problem anymore. It's nice to see. I really look forward to the day where I can just walk into a shop and see one, which feels like it shouldn't be something you're looking forward to 2 years into a generation. But here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a really strong game to set alongside a PS5. Like, that game is going to look ridiculous if that's the same with Horizon. Like, if that's the first game you play on these consoles, it really gives you a strong impression. On the other side, you don't really see, and it might be because they kind of have no games at the moment, but Microsoft haven't really been doing the same thing outside of that Halo version of the Xbox Series X.
Right. Yeah. And the thing, I think they are maybe a little bit more hesitant to even like do a bundle with a game, because I think they want you to get an Xbox and then be like, well, if I want a bunch of games, you know what I can do? Yeah. Game Pass, and that
an emulator on my Series S.
Yes, exactly. You just turn into dev mode, and then you get Dolphin and Recharge, and you're good to go. It's that strategy has worked for them to a certain extent. Game Pass does seem to be continually growing for them. While they still don't have like brand new games to push it. Well, people are just getting it with their console, which is another side of that, another angle of that strategy that does make a lot of sense when you think about it. It's like, I just bought a new thing, I want all these games to play. Sure, why not? Sony, meanwhile, is I think this makes sense for where PlayStation is at, where Sony Interactive Entertainment is at in terms of where their values are. Where, okay, we need to be getting the highest average sales price per console that we can make sense without getting a huge backlash. So we raise it about 10 to 15% around the world. Not the United States. We'll do something a little bit different there because they're always extra annoying when we do stuff. So we'll trick them into paying more by doing the bundle. And, it's a trick. You're getting something for that money. So is it a trick? Well, yes, it is. But it's like a trick that people enjoy. So it works. It works in everyone's favor to a certain extent. But you're right, like there's not a lot of extras. They're continuing just to sell you the base PS5 without the faceplates, without the special controller. It still feels like it's in that wheelhouse of Sony maximizing profit without putting the minimum investment where possible into it. And that's their modus operandi recently, at least. Where it's like, hey, we got to get every possible dollar we can out of our customers, because we don't do it, if PlayStation doesn't do it, no one at Sony is. So I think I feel a little bit for everyone along the chain here who's like stuck in this apparatus of having to maximize profit from PlayStation, because you get the sense that if they could do it any way that they wanted to, it probably wouldn't look exactly this way. They probably would be doing something a little bit more special with the PlayStation 5 bundle, including God of War Ragnarok. But it just doesn't fit into the budget right now. So, we're stuck with this situation. But, at the end of the day, people just want a PS5. They want to play the game. If they put out a special edition console themed out, or even just the side plates themed after God of War Ragnarok in a few months, in a couple of years. Those things will still sell. It'll still be fun for fans of that game. So this is not so. It is just like another little straw on the pile of Sony's in a weird position right now, and they're still firing all cylinders in terms of the quality of the games and the quality of the console. So is there really an issue? Well, it's not an issue until it is, and right now it's just not quite yet, right?
Do we know if it's a physical version or a digital version that comes with the bundle?
Yes, it's a physical. It's the disc version of the PS5. Yes, and then
sorry, is that a disc of God of War? Or
it's a digital code of the game.
Ah, okay. I was about to say, because then look forward to this game leaking like 3 weeks ahead of time if that's the case.
Yep. This is the disc version of the console, digital version of the game. It's like, okay, well, there's part of the trick, right? Where you can't go sell this game. It's not easy to sell that code or whatever. It's a little bit more like, oh, you sell that code on eBay. The person says, well, I didn't get the code, even though they just redeemed the code. But it didn't work. It just didn't work when I tried to redeem it, and then you're screwed. So people tend to not do those things. Or if you do it, you do it on another site that doesn't give you quite as much money. So they're like, but there's not going to be a lot of used copies in game stores because of this bundle. So it benefits Sony.
You talk about the kind of the small things that make people think Sony's being a bit weird. Do you think that translates to average people who play games the same way that the toxic message about Xbox One not playing used games transfers? Because I don't. I think this is an issue to people that are games enthusiasts and that are in the culture. But person on the street still thinks PS5's the newest, greatest, best looking thing ever. Like, that is the thing that matters. So that's why I'm always a bit. I don't buy into this theory that like Sony are killing themselves with these $70 games. Not. It's like it doesn't actually matter to the majority of people that will buy these consoles. Like
I think that's what I meant by it doesn't matter until it matters. It's these things are building up. They are building up in sort of our room over here where we are on this podcast and having these listeners, and we all talk and think about video games all the time. It's building up ever so slightly over here, and the only way it'll affect that other side of the consumer spectrum that you're talking about is if something breaks that dam, if something pushes all of these issues out into that other room where they are at, and none of these things are that thing that could cause that to happen. Something like that could happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, now here's a laundry list of other things that PlayStation has done recently that makes them look a little bit, and now if you pair that with this big thing, that big thing hasn't happened. I personally think that while Sony is trying to maximize a nickel and dime and get as much money as possible, that they are mostly pretty competent and understand where to avoid those red button issues, those DEFCON 5, DEFCON whatever the really bad one is, issues that would push that stuff out there into the mainstream and make them upset. They're really savvy, and so they're making their games where they can and where they can get away with it. Like that, the pricing strategy and the bundling the game in America because they don't want to raise the price just flat out in America. I think it's pretty evident that they are savvy to these things and understanding what they could get away with, raising the price everywhere else, and what they couldn't, raising the price in the United States. It speaks to sort of a base level of competency in avoiding those issues. And so I'm mostly pretty confident that they're going to get through this generation just fine, while also maybe just a little bit of the shine coming off the top. And really, that's a worthy exchange for 5% margin growth on profits. That's a lot of money. That's a lot. That's big bonus money for Jim Ryan. He'll take that any day. So
he needs it.
He doesn't
all those flights to Brussels can't be cheap. The thing that would transfer over to the mainstream would be the Call of Duty thing, and that is why they are fighting so desperately to even try to stop whatever they think the worst case scenario is, because as soon as person who buys 5 games a year tells their friend, oh, PlayStation doesn't have Call of Duty, or Call of Duty's free essentially on Xbox, that is huge. That is big enough to make waves.
Yep, it's definitely, and it's the thing that's the story we talk about at least once or twice per week on this show, and we will until we figure out exactly what the fallout of all that will be because of how important it is. All right, let's move on to Sony. Ultrasonic haptic patent wants to provide more feedback through sound. This comes from Hunter Miche at Segment Next. A recently released Sony patent is apparently wanting to take haptic feedback in sound to the next level. The patent, which is supposedly for a mid-air ultrasonic haptic interface, appears to be geared towards augmented and virtual reality to increase sound immersion for the player, according to the patent's abstract section. Here's some quotes from that documentation. This implementation, too, allows for a coverage of larger distances and provides for a wider range of interactions, thereby allowing a user to extend an appendage into a broader workspace while providing for multiple points of or comprehensive sensation or interaction without sacrificing user comfort with respect to any such interaction. I'll try to translate that. It sounds like as you push your hand further into like a 3D space while wearing a virtual reality helmet, the amount of sound feedback that you get that like is like targeted at you increases or something like that. It's a weird concept. Basically, I think they just want to use sound in a way that feels a little bit more physical, where it is haptic. To me, it sounds a little bit like the military trying to use sound for crowd control, and they're just like, Sony wants to attack you with sound when you're being a shitty fan, and they're just going to come in your home and blast sound waves at you. But you know, I think it's cool that they continue to experiment with this stuff. Sony's hardware and research and development teams are really talented. And Mark Cerny now wants pictures of your ears. He wants pictures of your whole body now, so he can just blast you with sound. I think that's a cool thing. Do you think we ever see something like this? Because, you know, patents can just be something that get filed and never used, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I love that haptic stuff, and I love the 3D audio on the PS5.
Oh, yeah.
I think all that stuff, when used properly, is incredible. It's the very last thing on like a third-party dev's list of stuff to include, because it's like, okay, let's make sure the game works first.
Yeah, it goes like 3D sound and haptics, and then what is the little things on the UI?
Activity cards.
The activity cards. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. A game I'm playing for review has very good activity cards, and it's third party. I was like, oh my god,
really?
Sony must have given them significant money for this to work so well. But yeah, it's another cool thing they're doing. I think that element of Sony pushing forward the tech has always been at kind of the core of Sony. The PS3, as ahead of its time and bulbous as it was a really impressive piece of tech at that time. So I'm always keen to see kind of how they're going forward, and I really want to try out a PSVR 2. There was those kind of limited previews recently, so I'm looking forward to whenever that ends up at early 2023.
Yeah, first quarter 2023, I guess. Yeah,
that will be an interesting one. It's going to be super interesting how they position that, especially after Meta announcing that their headset is like $5,000 or whatever. Like, they're going to have to come out and be like, this is expensive. This is a niche product, but this is why you should care about it. And I think that's going to be a really interesting kind of era for Sony. But you can't really show stuff like this. This is the kind of thing that you only notice when you're actually playing it. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool, but it's not. You don't put that in the back of the box.
Yeah. The patent does go on to say, like, they think that this is necessary because it just makes more sense financially than doing a physical installation or bespoke custom venues. And they really just want to make people have that sense of immersion without actually having to pick up a physical object. And there's potential there. You can imagine that there's some sound engineers who have probably been playing around with these concepts for a very long time, who are pretty excited about the possibility of using sound for feel, because, you know, it is just vibrations through the air. And then you hit it. Although a lot of people in chat are saying this stuff sounds like sex stuff, so maybe this is also the future of teledildonics. Well, I don't know. Who could say?
There's not been an advancement in teledildonics in far too long, in my opinion.
Absolutely. I've been reading the trades, and there's just
the MCV of teledildonics.
Yeah, teledildonic daily. Absolutely. Microsoft's DirectStorage 1.1 will soon boost PC game load times with GPU decompression. Okay, I'm still laughing at my stupid jokes. This goes from Tom Warren at The Verge. Microsoft is bringing GPU decompression to Windows PC games soon. After launching DirectStorage earlier this year, GPU decompression promises to be the next step in the ongoing effort to improve game load times on PCs. Microsoft says it's one of our most highly requested features from game developers. GPU decompression works by offloading the work needed to decompress assets in games to the graphics card instead of the CPU. Modern games include massive amounts of assets like characters, landscapes, and so on. To reduce the total size of games, they compress these objects. Typically, decompression work is done on the CPU because the decompression or compression formats have historically been optimized for CPUs only. This is one of those things that is so easy to implement on the console because everyone has to make games in a certain way on a console. And then you come to the PC and everyone's like, well, I got my hard drive and I'm sure I have an SSD. Is it fast enough? And does it connect to the GPU across the bus in a fast enough way? Well, no, not quite. So, all right, we can create a new standard. And like 3 years later, we're still waiting for a single game to use DirectStorage. Forspoken is a game that should use this. And that game's not coming out till earlier next year now. And there's some rumors, I guess the next Witcher or the next Witcher 3 update might use this. But this is the long-term thing here is that computer that's inside your computer called the graphics card is going to become even more of a computer in that it's probably going to have a slot on it, an M2 slot for an SSD, and you're going to be able to put your own SSD in there. And then a lot of the game data will be stored directly on the GPU going forward. And it will be decompressed so fast that load times will be instantaneous and much like how it is on the PS5 and Xbox Series X right now. And so that's a welcome thing, but the hurdles from getting from here to there when PC gaming is just so disparate in terms of possibilities for hardware specifications, it's a long time coming, and it'll be a long time coming even as we start getting the first games that use this. The people who actually take advantage of it will be 1%, 2% for a long time before we get to 50%, which is probably literally like 5 years away at least.
Yeah. I'm not a huge nerd, so I play the majority of my games on console.
Completely fair.
Always a surprise to me that specifically these next gen consoles, like it's always a surprise when I go back to PC and they don't have like the kind of the loading stuff and even still they had the PS5 had this on day one. Like the fast travel in Spider-Man doing that in 3 seconds across the city is the most impressive next gen thing that has been thus far. So yeah, it's cool if they can get there. From the sounds of it and the way you describe it, it sounds like it will cost you thousands of pounds to get to that point because of the hardware required. But
upgrading your GPU, which probably means probably upgrading your motherboard, I think, to be able to read DirectStorage off the GPU. Like, I guess maybe that's not necessary, but I think it probably would be. But you're probably going to be building a whole new PC to actually take advantage of this stuff. So yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, it's cool. These kind of once we got out of the SD to HD jump is obviously was super significant in the kind of diminishing returns in visuals, but I think there's not enough said about how much better games like load now and generally perform on consoles on like these 500 quid boxes. Like there's clearly steps being made, and really the PC should be leading those steps as this super advanced like open platform. But yeah, as you say, because of the way PC games are made, it's impossible to kind of shepherd everyone into using this same technology. It might just be a case of there being some like financial incentives to show it off. If Forspoken is super impressive, if that Witcher update does use it, although who would want to play The Witcher 3? But
psychopaths, I don't know.
Yeah,
weirdos.
7 out of 10.
I'll say that the load times for Spider-Man for me on my PC instantaneous as well. That comes down to I'm sure a lot of that is just SSD. I mean, SSD gains from 10 years ago were some of the most impressive stuff you could ever get, but a lot of that is also now like DDR5 just being the standard memory standard for like the PC that I'm using now, which is just that much faster, although games haven't taken much advantage of that yet. They're starting to. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting, a lot of options for developers to take advantage on PC, and it'll be. I think you're still mostly right in that consoles actually are going to be sort of the leading the way in terms of like the path of least resistance for developers. Like, hey, consoles support this, so then when we want to like make our decisions on PC, if we can replicate what we've already done on console, we're going to do that. So instead of using the PC RAM storage as a way to replicate what we did with fast load times on console, instead, if we have DirectStorage, we'd rather just do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, this is like an incredibly stupid complaint, but I hate in this era of really fast loading games that finish their loading screen and then X to continue, because I always think this is taking forever.
Yeah,
why hasn't this loaded yet? And it said X to continue for about 10 minutes in the corner of the screen. Don't like it.
It's like when I'm driving, and for some reason my brain just thinks this one particular intersection is a light, and it's just a stop sign, and I just stare at it, waiting for the stop sign to turn green. I've done that like 3 or 4 times. Valve has registered a new gaming trademark, a Neon Prime, and here this is from the documentation. Neon Prime trademark registration is intended to cover the categories of computer game software, electronic game software, video game software, computer game programs, downloadable via the internet, and that applies to all of them there. Is this a new game?
Oh yeah, I've actually played loads of it. It's going to be great. No, this is a typical going into the Valve memory hole. Like, this is probably the closest we've got to them actually making a new game in 10 years or whatever. But I still think we will never see this. This will be like in an art book in 15 years time.
Sure.
And
right next to In the Valley of the Gods. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, In the Valley of the
Just it'd be like
in the chat for Campo Santo. Man.
Yeah, Sean Vanneman just like sitting there like a skeleton at Valve.
That's what you find in the Valley of the Gods when they do the remake of it. You find Sean Vanneman. No, this is if this was any other company, no one would give a shit about this. But because it's Valve, it's like, oh, are they actually going to make a game?
Yep.
But Valve's too busy making money to make stupid video games.
Right.
What's the point?
They can let other people make. Every time this subject even like slightly comes up, I make the same point, but I'm just going to do it again. You know who makes more money than the band that makes the music? The company that makes their guitars. Like, you make so much more money selling band guitars than you do using guitars to make music. So, yeah.
Maybe this is what they're going to call like the pro version of the Steam Deck, the Neon Prime. Ooh. Like this when they do an OLED Steam Deck.
Sorry, everybody. I did the intro for a second again. We fixed it. Yeah, I want okay. If it's not a game, what else could it be? So you're saying that the hyper duper super duper Steam Deck,
the $5,000 Steam Deck.
Is Neon Prime the name of the Steam Game Pass competitor?
That would be interesting, but it's also like the nerdiest name ever. Like, Game Pass makes sense. Like, oh, is your game coming out day 1 to Neon Prime?
I don't know. Something sounds like something Steam would try to do. Valve would try to get away with. Like, yeah,
look, in the era of the Steam Deck being the greatest piece of hardware of all time, I'm crying out for either a native PC Game Pass app on Steam Deck to make it actually work, not the weird workaround you have to do, or something like that. Like, I'm paying for EA's stupid subscription thing just to have all these games to try out for 5 minutes on the Steam Deck. Like, I think that, this is probably a game that they're like 15% interested in actually showing people, so they're like, we'll get the name sorted. Like, this is our clerical office hasn't done anything in 3 years. Give them something to do. Like,
just throw some work to Jim. Jim's just been sitting there. He's about to turn into a skeleton next to Sean.
It's such a Friday story. It's such a there's nothing going on. Let's
exactly.
Talk about this.
I know those are some of my favorites. All right, let's get to this. Keegan-Michael Key improvised a song as Toad in the Mario movie. This comes from Ethan Schanfeld at Variety. Not much is known about Nintendo's upcoming Super Mario Bros. Movie, but Keegan-Michael Key revealed to Variety that his character Toad has a musical moment in the film. When asked if Toad shows off his singing chops in the animated movie, Key said, "He does. I got to improvise a song in Super Mario Bros., which was an absolute blast. That was just a stick of fun, that whole thing." Regarding Toad's voice, Key said, "I was working on the voice with my partner and trying to find the voice through the internal journey of the character. And then with the directors, Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, we sprinkled some things in and we moved it around." He said they were like trying to like go higher and higher and higher. And eventually he found it and he's really happy with it. I think 0 complaints from people about Toad's voice in that trailer, right? He nailed it.
Yeah. Keegan-Michael Key is phenomenal. And like, as a huge Key and Peele fan and knowing how good of a singer he is, like, this makes total sense. I'm convinced that all of the Mario movie reviews are going to be, it was brilliant, apart from Chris Pratt, but just ignore him. Everyone else like completely carries it. Like,
I think Chris Pratt I think the final sort of judgment on the Chris Pratt voice is going to be, it does not ruin the movie, and then no one else will say anything else. And I think that's, at a certain point, that's kind of as much as you can ask.
The thing is, though, like, before I knew about Chris Pratt and the whole thing about Chris Pratt,
sure,
like, I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I loved him in
he's
Parks
fine.
and Rec.
He's got
loved
screen
him in the
presence.
Lego
Yeah.
movie. Like, there was just something about him. He was such this affable kind of everyman guy. He was cool, and then you find out he's one of them. You find out he's one of them, and it just completely ruins the entire thing for you.
Yeah, like, I'm like not even sure how much one of them he is, but he's definitely one of them adjacent.
He's one of them enough for it to bother me. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I'm like, and this is not us trying to cancel Chris Pratt. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a like. Do get paid, Chris Pratt? I don't care. I literally just think it's funny how you sound as Mario, which is you. It's like you spent a day in Brooklyn and you called yourself like an empath while really high, and so you took on their accent after like 10 minutes. And then you came home to all your friends, and like all your friends are like, "Why are you talking that way? You're like, this is not how you talk. You've been gone for 72 hours. Like, this is weird." And then like that's when they recorded all his lines. So whatever. Toad has a song though. We know that Jack Black said that Bowser has a song as well. This is shaping up to be kind of what we were hearing from that early script thing that I went over. I'll say the one thing that it sounds like has changed in this delay is. We haven't heard or seen much of Yoshi, and that early script was, Yoshi finds Mario, and Yoshi Sherpas Mario through the kingdom, and then they sing a song together with Yoshi, and I think it sounds like maybe they made a decision to replace Yoshi's character slots in the movie with Toad instead. It seems that way. Maybe not. I really do not understand how these decisions get made, so vetting this information was always really hard for me, but looking at the trailer and hearing these tidbits, and seeing how central Toad is in the trailer, it seems like maybe Toad has that spot. Which King and Michael Key is working, and that character was really good. And I think the idea of this being Captain Toad before he becomes Captain Toad, and at the end of the movie he gets awarded the honorary title of Captain Toad by Princess Peach. I think that's a cool, fun thing. I think that's likely to happen. So yeah, I think that would be nice. Yeah,
I think it'd be funny if Yoshi is actually in the film, but only for like 5 minutes, and Mario like jumps over a cavern and like launches him into the cavern, and that's the end of it. That's like stuff like that. That would completely turn me on this film. Yes. As soon as they start doing wee jokes like that, it's like, okay, like we're in this now. We get this.
And there's a or at least there was a montage where that's where they do a lot of bits about like, he gets the superstar there, and he uses the fire flower here. And it happens all. I mean, you put a Yoshi falling into a pit joke in there, and I am 100% on board. So yeah, hopefully. All right. Unlike Overwatch 2, Modern Warfare 2's mobile phone requirement is PC only. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC, clarifying its SMS security policy for Modern Warfare 2 in a blog post. The publisher confirmed that a text-enabled phone will only be required to play on PC. It said the SMS policy for Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 2.0 on Battle.net is the same as the one that has in place for Warzone on PC since May 2020, and that applies to Steam as well. This was a big annoying thing for Overwatch 2, and it seemed to apply to everybody, whether you're on PC or not, and it caused a lot of issues because there was a lot of people who had prepaid phones, and that did not meet the authentication requirements for this SMS protocol. I think by limiting it to PC, it seems a little bit more fair, because if you can afford a PC, you can get a fucking postpaid phone. Come on, let's get real here. Get
especially as you say, phone. If this has already been a requirement, there's like an expectation that this is actually kind of what you do on PC, and it's a different thing on console, especially with free to play games, which do draw a larger audience of people that like less fortunate or whatever, so they might not have the requirements to do that. So yeah, I'm glad this is not what the initial concern was, and kind of hacking an account integrity on Call of Duty is a huge problem, so they have to do something about it.
And it's trivial to do on PC, right? It's pretty trivial, so it's exactly. You could see them be like, PC's where the majority of the problems are coming from. We want to be able to permanently ban someone, and one of the ways we could do that is by forcing them to tie their phone, which is a big hassle if they're going to be asked then to go get a new phone if they want to continue cheating in Call of Duty. Yeah. That's a barrier to re-entry that feels rough. And it's like, yeah, maybe they would do that, but then are they going to cheat again and risk having to do that again? They're much less likely to do that, I would imagine. And it still kind of feels like a little bit shitty that you force people that might not want to have that kind of phone do this. But it's if you're on PC, you're not paying for online mobile or online multiplayer access. So it's like, hey, we are going to have to create this different barrier for you. And it seems a little bit more balanced in the end.
It's absolutely wild that the campaign for that game is out like next week or something like that. Like the pre-order, get the campaign early thing starts in like 7 days. Like this Call of Duty review is going to be so strange because it's going to be like, here is our review in progress, here's the campaign, and then in 2 weeks time we'll tell you what the multiplayer is like. It's a strange one. I'm looking forward to that game though, because I absolutely love Warzone. So as soon as Modern Warfare 2 is out the way, I can start thinking about Warzone 2, baby.
Hell yeah. Tag Heuer, I don't know how to say this company's name.
Tag Heuer.
All right, Tag Heuer. Is selling a $25,000 Tag Heuer selling $25,000 and $4,300 Mario Kart watches. Get them now. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. The watch line named Tag Heuer Formula 1 X Mario Kart Limited Edition comes in 2 designs, a chronograph and a tourbillon. Oh man, fuck this.
Try that again. Go ahead. Go.
Yeah, a tourbillon.
He's my main in Overwatch too.
Yes, Torborn. Torborn chronograph. The chronograph is the more premium product of the two, and that comes at $25,600. And then the other one, or that one's limited to 250. So there's only 250 of these in the world. Meanwhile, the less expensive one is $4,300 and is limited to 3,000. I'm just gonna wait for someone to get one of these, and I'm gonna do a heist. That's my plan.
Oh, nice. Can you not ask for like you're like an influencer now? Like you've left all that writing news crap behind. You just do funny videos. Can you not just ask for one of these?
Yeah, but hey, listen, Tag Heuer, I'm basically a clown. Let me be your rodeo clown here and get one of them Tag Heuers.
I mean, I have not been able to open Twitter for the past couple of days without seeing your face painted as Wolfpack Sting. So you've kind of germinated into the popular culture. You're like the Scorn guy on TikTok. That's you. You're the new big meme.
Yeah, I mean, this was always the plan, and it's where it's going exactly as I expected. And next step, President of the United States. So
yes, I would vote for you illegally.
Sega has delayed Humankind's console release indefinitely. This also comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Sega has delayed the console release of the strategy game Humankind for console indefinitely. Those versions of the game have been pushed back until further notice due to some unique challenges, they said. The console versions are in development at Sega-owned Amplitude Studio and Aspire. Sega added, "We apologize for the inconvenience, but rest assured that Sega Europe, Amplitude Studios, and Aspire are working hard to bring the best possible Humankind experience to console players." So, delayed indefinitely in that it no longer has a definitive release date, but they do still plan to release it on console. I can see this being a bit of a tough one. I mean, obviously 4X games made for PC, but we've seen them translated successfully to console before with Civilization, but probably doing that the first time requires a lot of rethinking how you built this game in the first place. And then on top of that, like Humankind, it's not overtaking Civilization by any means. It's, maybe it has the potential to one day be just as popular, but right now it's not. So it's like, do we invest big time into these console versions, or do we try to do this on the cheap while saving some money? And well, you can do that, but it's going to take longer. And you can kind of see that's probably what happened here, right?
Yeah, especially because Civ just ignores kind of console entirely, so they have such a good chance here to make a real dent with those people who don't play on PC. And if they put out a game that's super awkward to play, it will turn people off that genre forever. But if they do it in a good way and take the time to do it, this could lead people to go, oh yeah, I like this, but what if I got a PC that could make it run so much better and I could have so much bigger kind of games and things like that? I would love a new Civ Rev. If you could bring Civ Rev back, that would be great. But for Axis is a bit busy at the minute. Marvel's Midnight Suns is still coming out this year.
December, apparently.
I cannot believe that. I should be on my Christmas holiday by then, but I'll be reviewing goddamn Marvel's Midnight Suns. Look, I played that earlier this year, and I think it's going to be really good. Like,
that's nice to hear. I was not expecting you to say that. I'm glad to hear that.
I think this is going to be going to review really well, and it's going to surprise a lot of people because it is like the card thing, and the thing that they've shown is completely wrong. Once you've finished your missions, you go back to like the headquarters, and it becomes like a Persona relationship management game. Like you sit and play video games with like Marvel heroes to make them better friends with you, and then we've got a cameo, #1 games journalist. We've got a cameo. Does she not like Marvel's Midnight Suns?
Yeah, she's coming in here to say you're full of horse shit. She said that herself. That's why I'm allowed to say it in front of her.
I can't believe that. Yeah, Marvel's Midnight Suns, folk in the chat. If you like the bits in Persona 5 where you can take your characters and go and make them talk to each other, there's a lot of that in Marvel's Midnight Suns.
That sounds good.
Yeah, you can make them kiss. I don't know if you actually can.
Hey, we can all. Well, listen, I have fanfic powers.
Tom Ivan, do not report that.
Civ 6 actually did get ported to the console, but you're still right where it's like, it's not. I mean, you still think about it as the PC game first, and it's obviously their first prime.
That's what I mean. Like they don't do this kind of thing where Humankind was very specifically like, okay, we're making this big splash,
right?
And the console versions of Civ haven't. I mean, it's like Football Manager. You can play them on consoles, exactly. But why on earth would you?
You can do your taxes on an Xbox Series X. You can get Excel on there if you want, but you're not going to. So, Spider-Man Miles Morales comes to PC on November 18th. The Nixies port is going to hit Steam and Epic for $50 on that day. I'm ready for this. I saw the trailer. It looks, of course, it looks good. It's Miles Morales, and it's on the PC, and I am just ready to play it again on the big boy hardware, the super widescreen over there, and on my Steam Deck. They have really picked up the pace of releasing PC games, haven't they?
Yep, we've got Uncharted like next week or the following week or whatever, and then get Miles Morales out of the way, and then surely it's about time we actually put the greatest game on PlayStation 5 on PC.
Sackboy's Big Adventure.
Yeah, get that Sackboy.
He was holding up a Returnal. Was that like vinyl?
Yeah, it's a Returnal. It's a
That's
Returnal
awesome.
soundtrack vinyl.
That's great.
PlayStation did like 3 of them, and because Returnal, they didn't do the big merch push for Returnal, so I couldn't get like a daft statue or something like that. So I was like, okay, I'll just get the vinyl. I don't have a record player, but I'll get the vinyl. Yeah, I think Miles Morales is the better Spider-Man game in my opinion. Was it $50 in the US when it came out on console? Because it was 40 quid, I think, over here.
Was it? I can't remember exactly what it was, but wasn't it like paired with Spider-Man 1 for $60?
You could get it with Spider-Man 1, but you could also buy it individually.
Then it was expandalone pricing, right? It was 50. So yes, yeah.
Okay, that makes that. When I read that, I was like, that's a good game, but it's pretty short. Like it's not got anywhere near like the Spider-Man main game's level of content. But yeah, they're getting on with this PC kind of strategy, just trucking along, and all of the ports have been good. I know there was some problems with the first Horizon on PC when that first came out, but it seems like since they've acquired Nixes, they've got this kind of, it's just chugging along. Like I would expect that they'll do Returnal, Sackboy, and then I think they might do Demon Souls. Like I think that would be a huge thing to get the Demon Souls remake on PC, because that game already looks ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So a PC version would be absolutely sick. And then you heard Herman Hulst. It's like, we're going to wait a year, and then it's kind of anything goes. No Bloodborne though. Get it up. Use absolutely no Bloodborne.
Get fucked. I think that's quoting him. Actually, that's exactly what he said. I think it also goes to show like kind of where PC gaming revenues are at, because they're like, even all this, they're kind of just aiming at 300 million on the PC for this fiscal year. So, and that's probably also going to include some, unannounced live service games we haven't heard about yet. So, that's a lot of money. It really helps their bottom line. Again, Sony finding a good way to sort of to get as much money as possible from their games. But again, 300 million. It's not the the most money in the world. It's just like, hey, every percentage point of profit margins helps these companies, and they're going to do that work. All right, let's see here. Nintendo's former QA worker settles labor dispute. A former Nintendo of America QA worker who filed a National Labor Relations Board complaint against the company in April has reached a settlement with Nintendo of America and Aston Carter, a staffing agency. Aston Carter will take liability for the NLRB charge and pay the former QA worker $25,910 in back pay, damages, and interest, according to the settlement documents obtained by Polygon. Additionally, Nintendo must post a notice, both in email and on-site at its office, informing its QA workers of their rights under the National Labor Relations Act. The notice must be posted for 60 consecutive days. A Nintendo spokesperson told Polygon it is thankful a settlement was reached. The full statement is as follows. Nintendo is thankful that a resolution was reached in the NLRB matter so that we can continue to focus on ensuring that our working environment remains welcoming and supportive for all our employees and associates. That approach is fundamental to our company values. As part of the public settlement, all parties remain obligated not to disclose Nintendo's confidential business information and trade secrets, which are paramount to our development process and product offerings. So, Nintendo's saying, we're thankful that we could pay, and now shut the fuck up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, this is a thing where I feel pretty good about the way this process works from the side of the person who filed the complaint. And I didn't put down their name here, McKinsey, and they came out, tried to bring attention to this. They succeeded. We have talked about this multiple times now, and now Nintendo must recognize these issues in an official posting in its workplaces, and it has publicly said they're thankful about this. One of the things that McKinsey said at the time was that they wanted an apology from Doug Bowser. Maybe they got that. I don't think we know that. We might never know that because it does sound like it is now shut the fuck up Friday for the rest of the time on this stuff. But you successfully get Nintendo to probably pay up a certain amount of money and to acknowledge this stuff. That's a job well done from someone trying to bring attention to something, right?
Yeah. You hope that all of this worked out in a way that the people aggrieved feel that their kind of voices were listened to, and it wasn't just Nintendo coming in with a baseball bat made of money. It's
right.
Like, shut up. But yeah, it's also great to hear things like this being brought up and then Nintendo going, okay, let's sort this out without something like terrible having to happen and forcing their hand somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, you hope it's all good, and you hope that the kind of quality of life for these people in the industry only gets better because they are so essential to keeping this entire thing running.
Yeah, and it's I hope this sets the stage for the next time Nintendo and its partners like Aston Carter step in it. Well, the National Labor Relations Board was just there. And they know who they need to talk to when things go wrong to say, hey, you messed up this time. You just did this. We just talked to you about this. There's a poster in your place that says what your workers' rights are, and you violated those. And if it happens again, I would imagine that the precision targeting from the NLRB would be much more just like forceful and come in. I hope. That's what I imagine. Who knows if that's the reality on the ground? Maybe the reality is that now, and Nintendo's chummy with the NLRB, and they can prevent something from happening next time. I hope that's not the case, but it does sound like in this case, at the very least, the worker got some satisfaction from the company, and that's something. And under capitalism, what can you do? Here's the Scorn review roundup. Metacritic and OpenCritic both. It's 72 from all the reviews all mixed together there. Gaming Nexus gave it a 9 out of 10. Xbox Era gave it a 4 out of 10. So that kind of gives you a little illustration of the spectrum of takes that we have here. Gaming Nexus said, full of body horror and psychotically twisted imagery, players will have a wide variety of reactions to Scorn, but they are unlikely to be bored. While the game's world building and puzzle design are top-notch, the combat and a punitive checkpoint system may turn some players off. Xbox Era then said, I have enjoyed some action-adventure horror games out there. Limited ammo and health reserves can be a great tool for upping the tension, and a great story helps make it worth seeing things through. Scorn has none of that. It is bland, boring, plays poorly, and excels in no areas. Now, I do think that some expectations were mismanaged here because this has never been I would not describe it as an action-adventure horror game. It is missed with wall boners, right? It is a puzzle game.
I must have had the complete wrong end of the stick on the lead up to this game because I thought this was like a Doom shooter. Like I thought you were like going through these fleshy holes and shooting things. Like I had when Scullion started talking about it, I was like, "What are you talking puzzles? Like, why are you doing puzzles in this like action shooter game?" But yeah, there was clearly. I feel like this happens all the time with these these especially Xbox skewing games that end up on Game Pass. People. Yep. I got the same end of it when I reviewed As Dusk Falls and thought that was absolute shite. Like, people just expect these games to be the saviors when they were never positioned that way. And because you don't have the big Xbox games to buffer them, this is just going to keep happening.
Yeah, these are the great white hopes that are going to come out and save Xbox for people who do list wars on Twitter. And at a certain point, I mean,
legends.
The legends out there, the ones doing the real fighting. They played themselves again, and oh well, who cares? The rest of us are just gonna be like, hey, this is worth our time, worth our money, worth just checking out. And I think, I mean, at the very least, it seems like an interesting thing. I don't think it's for me. I watched Jess play it in our Unfinished, and it was causing me a lot of stress. So I having to deal with things that were constantly in pain and looked vaguely human and were attached to other fleshy parts of the. I'm like, not for me. But the puzzle side of it seemed just fine if that's what you're there for. And I think there should be room on the gameplay spectrum for a game that looks this way and is not an action game. Like it's kind of cool that it exists. But if you come here expecting anything along those lines, I would imagine disappointment's going to be pretty universal for that crowd.
I'm really glad I wasn't the one reviewing it, because I would have just been like, what the fuck is going on? I actually just think it's typical anti-Xbox bias from Xbox era.
Oh, of course,
they've been in the pocket of big Sony for so long.
Right. Jim Ryan, I'm pretty sure is really close friends with the owner of Xbox era. They eat dinner together every night, eat breakfast together every morning, I heard. Game Rant gave it a 1 out of 5. I always like a 1 out of 5 review, so I'll read this one. Finishing Scorn does not leave players with a sense of satisfaction. It's not scary, and it's not fun. Most will be glad that it's over, and at least it's mercifully short. It only takes about 5 hours to beat Scorn, and our playthrough ended with us earning 11 out of 12 of the game's achievements. Scorn gives players absolutely no reason to return to it, and quite frankly, it doesn't offer much reason to play it even once.
Yes, man. Fucking love that shit. Respect to whoever wrote that, because writing a 1 out of 10, 1 out of 5 rather, is very cathartic, but you also feel like you're putting your head on the fucking chopping block. You're like, if I get this wrong, like I think I've written 2 ones. I gave Babylon's Fall a 1, so that's clearly my fault. It shut down.
Man, wow. Grim Reaper out here, Jordan Midler.
Yeah. I mean, Kamiya still talks to VGC like every 2 weeks, so I've clearly not done that big a disservice to Platinum Games. But yeah, rating a 1. I don't even know if that's like, I've not played the game. That could be well off base, but I love a 1. I love it when a huge game gets a terrible score from like a really respected publication. It's like, yes, man, somebody with a bit of fucking bottle about them. I like that.
Yep, we're giving Cyberpunk a 3 out of 5. That's not a terrible score. You could see like this is one that some people just did not vibe with, and it happens. All right, let's take a look here at the polls. While I get that up, Jordan, what you got going on? You got anything you want to promote? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got my first physical PS5 game today, and it's
weird, gross.
Let's Sing ABBA.
Oh, never mind. That's a perfect physical game. That's awesome. You should have I'm sorry, I don't know what your space situation is, but you should probably clear off an entire shelf of just like, these are my PS5 games, and only ever have that with like bookends so it stands up perfectly straight.
Because I'm a huge ABBA fan, and the company that's like PR in it was like, do you want one of the bundles with the mics? And I was like, yeah, I don't have any fucking Rock Band mics still. Like what year is this? So yeah, I got Let's Sing ABBA. However, the sheer amount of games I have to play this weekend, that is like 17th in the queue. Like there's shitloads going on, lots of reviews next week, lots of discourse about reviews.
You should join the Giant Bomb Extra Life team and just sing ABBA for 12 hours.
I mean, that sounds like a threat more than it's like, does the site account for if a stream has negative viewers? Because I think we can maybe work that out.
I just do no effort to remove the accent. Just sing it in the strongest Scottish accent you can muster. That would be great.
I mean, I very, very vividly remember Dan singing Crocodile Rock on a Christmas video a few years ago, and that would be kind of the level you're looking for with my ABBA performance. They're all very high vocal. I have a much deeper timbre, you know.
Dan actually also got Let's Sing ABBA or whatever the fuck it is.
Right, okay. This is meant to be. We have the same like character customization preset. Like if Dan had these glasses, like it'd be indistinguishable.
One just grew up in Kansas, the other one grew up of the Kansas of Europe, Scotland.
Yeah. That's a huge insult, but yeah.
Of course, absolutely. I know. I'm sorry. All right, let's see here. The poll is, do you want Starfield to be hard sci-fi? And 72.6%, this is my first time actually looking at the number, 72.6% said yes, 27.4% said no. I'm going to assume a lot of people just didn't know what hard sci-fi was when they were answering this.
because it's funny, because it's hard. That is the majority
is that what
of
happened?
the
You just
answers.
like hard sci-fi. Yeah.
Hard sci-fi.
It is going to be, I think it's going to be relatively solid sci-fi. Like I think they're going to lean towards having an explanation for how their things work. And there's probably not going to be a lot of space magic or aliens along those. I mean, not that aliens couldn't be hard sci-fi, but whatever.
The aliens are hard. The aliens
Mass
are pretty
Effect,
hard.
yeah, very hard sci-fi. But yes, I think I tend to agree if people are trying to like give it a more generous take of what hard sci-fi can mean. But like, yeah, mostly on that side of things, mostly on the far side of Star Trek rather than closer to Star Wars. Because we already have that from stuff like Mass Effect. It'd be nice to get a game that's maybe a little bit closer to a sim without actually fully being a sim. All right, and then the question for today. Let's ask this, as inspired by Scorn and Scorny Jr. Do you find any utility in game reviews? Game mess mornings, and
can't imagine what inspired this conversation.
Should this be yes or no, or should we get more bespoke than that? I think I'm just gonna go yes or no because I'm lazy is mostly the biggest.
Yes,
reason.
no, get fucked.
Yeah.
Yes, no, don't care.
Yeah. Yes, no. Game reviewers don't. Reviewers take reviewers' rights. There we go. All right, and I'm tweeting that. And there we go. All right, everybody. Hey, that was a fun show. Jordan, thank you for hanging out with me today.
Of course, man. I mean, now you've let me into the crew zone. You're never going to get rid of me. I'm just
that was the idea. That's the idea. I want you creeping around, just hanging out, and like pouncing when we least expect it. Yeah.
I mean, fun. You already like you've had Tam, who's an Andy protege, transition to Giant Bomb. Like you just have the hooks in people and then just steal them from VGC. Yeah, Tom Ivan's next. No one knows what Tom Ivan actually looks like in real life, but
hell yes,
one of these days you'll get him.
Yeah, I'm gonna add Tom to my collection. Thank you everybody for watching Giant Bomb. I am getting in a vehicle. I'm getting out of here, but I think that they are gonna do a UPF today. There was talk of doing the New York Times crossword puzzle. There was talk of and there is also Sekiro Choa coming up right now, I believe. So we're gonna hand it over here to Jan in a second, and then UPF will be whatever UPF is gonna be. I'll be watching. I'll put it on in the vehicle. I honestly, I might be where I'm going by the time that happens. So we'll see. Thanks again, everybody. Once more for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Thanks once again to Jordan. Until next time, everybody, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
I can hear the drums, Fernando.